Chapter 1. A Place for Demons. It was night again. The Waystone Inn lay in silence, and it was a silence of 3 parts. The first part was a hollow, echoing quiet, the kind made by things that were missing. There was no wind to sigh through the trees, no customers to fill the air with conversation and laughter. No music. Of course, there was no music. Inside the inn, 2 men sat at the bar, drinking with quiet determination. They avoided serious discussions, especially troubling news. Their silence added another layer to the emptiness. The third silence belonged to the man behind the bar. His name was Kote, and this silence was his. It was deeper and heavier than the others. It was the silence of a man who was waiting to die. The story begins. Old Cobb, one of the men at the bar, cleared his throat and began telling a familiar tale. Now this amulet was worth a whole bucket of gold nobles, he said, leaning in. But on account of Taborlin's kindness, the tinker sold it to him for nothing but an iron penny, a copper penny, and a silver penny. The boy listening to the story leaned forward. Taborlin the Great was a hero in old stories, a man of power and wisdom. The amulet was black as a winter night, cold as ice to touch. But so long as Taborlin wore it, he was safe from demons and evil things. The men nodded. I'd give a good piece for such a thing these days, Shep muttered darkly. He had drunk the most and spoken the least. Everyone in town knew something terrible had happened on his farm last Sendling night, but no one asked for details. Not yet. Old Cobb took a long drink. Who wouldn't? The boy, still fascinated, said. I didn't know the Chandrian were demons. They ain't demons, Jake cut in. They were the first 6 people to refuse Telu's path, and he cursed them to wander the corners of the world. Old Cobb slammed his mug on the table. Are you telling this story, Jacob Walker? Because if you are, I'll let you get on with it. Jake glared at him, but after a moment he looked away, muttering what might have been an apology. Cobb turned back to the boy, his voice dropping to a whisper. That's the mystery of the Chandrian, lad. Where do they come from? Where do they go after they've done their bloody deeds? Are they men who sold their souls? Demons? Spirits? No one knows. He shot Jake a sharp look, though every half-wit claims he knows. At this point, the story descended into argument. Were the Chandrian demons or something else? What were the signs of their presence? Would Taborlin's amulet protect him from bandits, or mad dogs, or even falling off a horse? Voices rose, and the conversation grew heated until the front door slammed open. The men turned to look. Jake started to say something, but stopped mid-sentence. His face drained of color. God's body, he whispered. What happened to you? Carter staggered into the inn. He was pale as a sheet, his breath coming in short, sharp gasps. His hands shook as he reached for a chair to steady himself. The air in the inn changed. Old Cobb set his mug down without a sound. Shep stiffened. Even the boy could feel it. Something was wrong. The innkeeper, Kote, had not moved. He stood behind the bar, still polishing the wood with slow, measured strokes. His dark eyes watched Carter carefully. Carter swallowed hard, his throat working. When he finally spoke, his voice was hoarse, shaking. I found something. The silence deepened. Shep's voice was barely above a whisper. What did you find? Carter took a deep, unsteady breath. He closed his eyes as if forcing himself to relive what he had seen. Then he spoke. A body. The word hung heavy in the air. Jake's knuckles went white around his mug. Who? Carter shook his head. I've never seen him before. A beat of silence. Then the innkeeper spoke for the first time. His voice was low, steady. What else? Carter flinched at the question. He looked up, his eyes dark with fear, and in a voice barely above a whisper, he answered. His eyes were burned out. The room went still. For a moment, no one moved. No one breathed. Then Jake's voice, a bare murmur. The Chandrian.